Well, hello there, beautiful. It's Kylie Patchett here. Welcome to the Wild and Finally Pecking Free podcast. I deeply believe that the years during and beyond perimenopause are a rite of passage. All of a sudden, we find ourselves on the precipice of a life transition where our brain literally rewires and runs out of fucks to give. We find ourselves shifting identity, no longer caring what other people think, and being invited to expand into new ways of being. Here, we share the real and raw stories from women who've been through deep midlife metamorphosis, taken a leap of faith, or broken the ties that bind us in patterns of staying small, stuck, and like our needs just don't matter. This is the midlife medicine you didn't even know you needed. Stories full of joy, despair, freedom, courage, and deep self-honoring. I am so glad you found us. Welcome. Hello, everyone. I am super excited. I'm clapping my hands. I know you can't see me, but super excited to welcome our next guest. I'm speaking with a beautiful friend of mine and also an amazing advocate for women's health and the transition through menopause, which we'll get to in a second. The beautiful Sonya Lovell. Hello, Sonya. How are you?
Hi, Kylie. I am so well, and even better for seeing you today.
I've got that wagging my tail dance happening. No, we were talking off air and I'm so excited to share your story because you have such a depth of transformation to discuss from a personal level, but that's opened the door to you being this amazing professional advocate for women transitioning through, I'm going to call it the clusterfuckery of menopause, the fun and clusterfuckery of menopause or perimenopause.
And I do say fun for me was tongue-in-cheek. Yes. But thank you for that intro. I think I might need to carry you around with me in my pocket as my personal introducer from now on.
Happy to. I could be a professional spruiker.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
I can also tap dance, so that's good too.
Oh my God, 2 for 1. What more could I ask for?
Oh, beautiful. So let's start. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what drew you to talk with us, because, the whole point of this podcast is breaking free of the ties that bind. So, and that can mean many different things for many different people. So what drew you to come and share your story with us?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. And yeah, it's really interesting because, when you talk about, breaking free of the ties that bind, for me, there are so many different levels and ties that I have broken free of, and not necessarily by my own choice originally, in the last 5 years. And so I am a personal trainer by trade, if you want. And I have been a personal trainer now for 13 more years. Yes. And I've worked in all facets of personal training, but I was always drawn to working with women. And it's really interesting. Early in my career, when I expressed that I wanted to work with women predominantly, I was pretty much kind of shut down by, the mentors and those, ahead of me in the industry that were predominantly male, because they were like, no, you can't niche, what we call now niching. Don't do that. You need to work with everybody. You can't just work with one segment of an audience, which is, we now know as business owners, so ridiculous.
So ridiculous.
So ridiculous. But yeah, so I was always drawn to work with women, particularly women that were of my age. And, I was 40 when I qualified. I'm now 52. And that, has always been a big part of what I've done in my drive to be a PT was to work with women and to help women improve their lives through exercise and fitness. I've also done nutrition coaching and all the things that go hand in hand with that. But I guess the big upheaval that I had in my life that created this change for me was in 2017 when I was 47 and I was very suddenly and unexpectedly diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was obviously incredibly shocking to me. I discovered a lump in the shower. I've always been an advocate for self-checking your breasts, but just because it's always what I'd done. And then I discovered a lump in my right breast, and I was like everybody else. I ignored it for the first couple of months until I realized it had actually got bigger. And then I was like, oh, hang on, this is kind of need to trot off to my doctor for this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that happened very, very quickly. Like I literally went from recognizing that the lump had increased in size from when I'd felt it the month before, visiting my GP, being on the table after having a mammogram to have a biopsy. Then that all happened like within hours, and to being on an operating table a week later. It was literally like being put on a train that you didn't know where it was going. There was no destination, and it was going super fast, and there were no stops at any other stations. You were just on this train, and you just left the station, and you were, it was horrendous. And so that is, when we talk about when I experienced having to break some of those ties, that was the big change for me. So, prior to that, I'd lived this incredibly healthy life. I was, fit. I looked amazing, and I was probably the poster girl for being, fit and fabulous in your 40s.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it literally was like my body betrayed me. My body let me down. And my body, which I had relied on so much in my, my 30s, I had my kids, my 40s, I was a personal trainer. And all of a sudden, this body that had carried me through so much just literally let me down. And I had to get used to that idea. I had to, and it was hard, and it took me, we can talk about all the things that happened in between, but it took me probably 3 years post-diagnosis to be in a place where I could accept that this is what my body is now, and it's not the body that I used to have. It's still my body, and it's still capable of doing amazing things.
Yes.
It just looks very different to the body that I was used to.
It strikes me as I'm hearing you, what I'm feeling is this like sense of fear in my chest. It's like the me that I know, who is healthy, who has a body, who, is functional, I eat well, I have this amazing life, I have these, beautiful family around me, everything's ticking along nicely. And then this, train comes, and you're like, it's a bullet train. That's what I've got in my head, the bullet train in this, like, Japan. Is there a bullet train? I don't know. But and all of a sudden, every single thing that you believe about yourself gets questioned.
Oh my God.
Turned on its head.
And even to the point where I had a conversation with my husband, probably, I'm going to say 5 or 6 years earlier, where I'd actually been at a kind of conferencey thing in the health and wellness industry, and had come home from that and said to him, if ever I have cancer, I want you to know that I will never have chemotherapy.
Oh.
I will never do that to my body. I will, I don't believe in it. And my husband is quite an empath, and he was like, oh, please don't say that. Please don't say that. And I was like, no, I want you to know that will be my decision. And, it's so easy to say those things.
Yes.
And, without the knowledge of what's coming down the track for you. And then I was literally in a position where I had to decide if I was going to have chemotherapy or not, potentially to save my life. I know, I did. I chose to have chemotherapy, and that was hard for me. And I was actually literally put in the position where I had to choose. So my oncologist was like, after I had my surgery, they then, do further investigation into the tissues that they removed to see how far spread and what, where your cancer actually is at, all the different proteins and what have you. And mine was, I ended up in this gray area where it was like, okay, well, it hasn't actually, spread. All the margins were clear.
Yes.
But there's this one particular protein that was really elevated, which shows that it was about to spread, like it was literally on the cusp of moving further afield. And because of that, we're a little bit nervous. So you need to decide what you'd like to do about that.
Oh,
next.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So, you could choose not to and be okay.
Yes.
Or to be on the safe side, we would probably be recommending that you do, but you need to make the decision. And that was horrendous for me.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, because it's one thing for a doctor to say, my absolute clear recommendation to beat this is X, Y, Z, but you were put in the position. Isn't it interesting? What's coming to my mind is this. I've actually got a whole heap of anchors around me at the moment, like visual, because I've just taken a big leap of faith, as we've been just talking about off air. And one of the things that I've written, which really feels true for me, probably for the first time in my life at the moment, is I am the decider and I am the creator. And that's actually, it's very easy to be the creator and the decider when things are going well and you're heading towards something that, you're driving towards and you believe in full in your heart. But you were put in a position where you had to be the creator and the decider of a really freaking tricky thing that went against what you believed was your belief, at least, in the past.
100%.
Wow. Okay. So talk about breaking the ties that bind, or making them, someone cutting them off you. It's not even really my choice.
Or handing you the scissors and asking you to cut them off you. That was probably what made it so hard. And I took my time to make the decision, which my husband struggled with. And we had, as you can imagine, our whole family was in turmoil. I had my eldest son was in year 11, just starting his year 12 work, which here in Australia is your final exam year. And, I, as a woman and as a mother, carried this incredible amount of guilt right from the immediate moment I was given the diagnosis. Was I didn't do that. Oh my God, what about me? I did this. Oh my God, what about my boys?
Them?
What about my family? Like, how is this going to impact everybody else? That's such a crazy place that we come from when as a woman and as a mother. I took 2 weeks to make the decision, and my husband really struggled with that because his thought process was, you could potentially die, then therefore this is a no-brainer decision to make. People have chemotherapy all the time, and why is this so hard for you? But I did take my time, and I did decide to have it, which I knew was going to be hard on me physically, but also I suppose emotionally and spiritually, because it did go against my grain. So that was probably the first tie that I had to break, was to those previous beliefs that I had that I didn't realize I'd ever have to question.
Hey gorgeous, we interrupt this gold for a delicious invitation. If your whole body has been whispering more lately, more voice, more truth, more satisfaction, more clients of the soulmate variety, more cash, more you, then this invitation is for you. Potent, my sister mind is officially open. This is my high touch, holy fuck, I'm ready sister mind for rebels in good girl clothing who are done outsourcing their power and diluting their magic to fit into someone else's business formula. If you have been craving a space where your strategy, your voice, and your energy all get to be offered, honored, refined, and amplified, this is it. Inside of Potent, you'll get my eyes on your business every single week, copy mentoring, and that is for brand copy and content storytelling that turns your truth into client catnip, energetic recalibration that helps you unhook old learned limitation patterns, keeping you quiet, not being seen, not being heard, real-time, high-touch, one-on-one coaching that actually sees the bigness of your vision, and the kind of sisterhood that does not flinch when you show up in your full, messy, brilliant, phoenix rising from the ashes glory. This isn't surface level support. It's deep, potent, paradigm shifting work that changes who you are as a woman in business and a woman in life. We start in August. Early open access is open right now. For the month of June 2025, inside of this early access open doors period, you will receive juicy bonuses, extended payment plans, and access immediately to my entire library of storytelling gold. You'll find all the juicy details at kyliepatchett.com/potent. And we fill spaces, and there's only 10 of them, and more than likely only 5 by the time you listen to this, because by that time I will have offered them to the existing cohort, the beautiful original OG circle. We do actually take applications on a first come, first served basis. So come and apply, and let's get back to the magic of the episode. When you're making that decision, because one of the things that keeps on coming up as a theme in these conversations is this concept of deep self-trust. Like when we are making a change or stepping through a doorway where we're making a decision to do something differently, breaking something, choosing not to go down the path of an old belief, there is this concept of self-trust that keeps on coming up for me. And in these discussions, it's really interesting because everyone uses different language. When you were making that decision, did you come to a point where you 100% knew that that was the right decision, or were you literally operating on the probability that it might be the right one?
I think my analytical scientific brain kicked in, and that was the driver. And I think it had to be, because I think if I had left it to my more emotional side, I don't know if I could have made a decision. No. I think I would have perpetually been stuck in this place of flux, which, as we know, you can't exist in. And also because I was feeling so guilt driven, and I don't know if that is actually the right terminology to use, but it's what's coming to me right now about my children.
Yes.
There was my analytical, my scientific, my logical brain took over, I suppose. And I did a heap of research, and I did all the research. I got as much information as I could from my oncologist and my breast surgeon, and everybody that could give me information. And I also saw a naturopath, and I also did delve into that side of it as well. And I allowed the decision to be made from that place.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting.
And I wanted to be here for my boys. I wanted to give my body, my physical body, the best opportunity to be here for as long as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because one of your very obvious, very high values is your family. So yes, of course,
100%
makes it perfectly logical. Okay, so you decide to have chemotherapy, you go through this course of treatment. I was saying to you before we recorded, you just posted on Instagram about, cancer was like this holy shit moment. And then like not even when you'd completed your treatment, you decided that you were going on a holiday with your family. And to me, when I read that post, I was like, there is a woman who's saying this is not going to fucking define me. I am in power still. I'm the creator. I'm the decider. And I'm choosing that this family holiday is something that is really important to me. And you said it was the best holiday you've ever been on. You want to talk a little bit about that? Like you go through all of this, obviously fear, doubt, treatment, physical impact of the treatment, emotional, mental, your relationship, your boys, all of that guilt stuff. When you get to the other side, or at what point did you decide that, I don't even know whether it's a decision, but where did the decision to just go, no, I'm taking my life back? Talk about that.
You know what? It's interesting. I actually only recognize that that's what I was doing in retrospect.
Yeah.
And I talk now very much about, breast cancer was something that happened to me.
Yes.
Cancer was something that happened to me.
Yes.
It's not something that I created. It's not something that I caused. It happened to me, and therefore I guess this is where it came down to, my strength of character, that one, you were talking about anchors and things before, that one kind of thing that, you carries through your entire life. And for me, that has always, one of my strengths, I always believed, has been my resilience. I have, right from primary school onwards, I have been an incredibly resilient person, human. And, I think that was what I was that's been my default, and that was what I defaulted to without even realizing that's what I was defaulting to, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so, family holidays for us have always been a significant part of our life. We predominantly travel overseas. We've taken our boys to incredible places and had amazing holidays. We love adventures. We love traveling. And, it's something that my husband and I did a lot of before we had children. Yes. And it's something we, made a really clear decision would always be something we continued to do with our children. And so it was almost a no-brainer to start planning a family holiday. It was just, this is what we do.
Yep.
And I suppose there was also like a really strong sense of I just wanted my life to get back to normal. And for us, normal is having a massive family holiday, at that time of year. So I ended up having obviously surgery, chemo, radiotherapy, and that all finished up in the November, and we landed in Los Angeles in the first week of January.
Wow.
And I had to get clearance from my oncologist to be able to go, and my radiotherapy oncologist. And, it wasn't a simple decision, but I made it happen. And I was really sick. I was so sick. And, I had some really significant tummy issues going on. I didn't let the boys know any of that. I was struggling with sleep. And the other thing to talk about here, which we haven't touched on, but actually is a key part of everything, is that as a result of my chemotherapy, I went into medically induced menopause.
Yes, exactly.
So not only was I, my body was physically healing from everything that had been thrown at it for 7-8 months, it was also in menopause.
Yeah,
which I now know so much more about. And so I was all over the place. I was exhausted. I wasn't sleeping. I was having horrendous hot flushes and night sweats. And, plus I had on top of that these tummy issues. But I did not let any of that stop me from having what we all agree today is the best family holiday we've ever had.
Yeah, amazing. That resilience piece, I think, for me, I really relate to that I've always, I have had multiple different challenges, but there's always this sense of I can get through this, I can do hard things. Yeah. And that bounce back ability, it's like that really deep knowing that, this is shit, but it will pass and there is life on the other side. And so let's, get going. Before we go into the menopause end of things, can we backtrack just one little bit too? Because one of the things that you said when we were first talking about the breast cancer was you had this, this body in your 30s and 40s that was, very active, very fit, had a particular look, feel, poster child of the fitness industry. And then you go through breast cancer. What changed in terms of your relationship with your body and the way that it looked?
Oh, that was huge. Yeah, that was huge. So I can remember sitting, and this was after we'd come back from the States. So I'm going to say it was probably about 6 months after my treatment had finished.
Yes.
And there is this really interesting thing that happens with, and it's not, this didn't happen just to me. I'm not unique. This happens to a lot of cancer patients. Is that once you finish your treatment, society, including your doctors, are like, okay, you finished your treatment now, you're good,
you're done. Yep.
Wash their hands of you, off you go, have a happy life, you live. Woohoo! For the patient, that is not the end. In fact, it's actually just the beginning of the healing. Yeah. And so, nobody tells you this. You have to, learn it all through lived experience. But so I, kind of went, oh, I'm done now. I've had this great holiday. I'm going to come back and my life's going to get on. And it didn't. And I fell in a heap and I ended up having a heap of counseling and a whole host of things happened. But I remember very vividly sitting on the lounge next to my husband, bawling, literally sobbing. And he was like, babe, what's wrong?
Yeah.
And I was like, why the fuck did my body do this to me? Why did, and it wasn't the why did I get cancer thing, because I never went down that track.
No.
But it was like, why did my body let me down?
Yeah, betray me.
But why? And it's funny, I write now when I'm talking to women about menopause, I talk about your body gaslighting you or feeling like your body is gaslighting you.
Yes.
And I felt like, why did my body let me down and betray me like this? Why did I believe 1 week that I was the fittest, healthiest person that I could possibly be in my 40s and the next week be diagnosed with cancer? what the fuck?
Yeah.
Sorry, am I allowed to say that?
No, go for it. This is definitely going to be a swearing podcast. Don't you worry.
Good. So yeah, I had this really deep resentment for my body, my physical body, and what it had allowed to happen to me. And I put on an incredible amount of weight.
Yeah.
I remember going to see a nurse prior to starting all of my treatment. It must have been in between surgery and starting treatment.
Yes.
And she was one of the, head nurses, in a kind of patient support role.
Mm-hmm.
And she said to me something like, you will put on weight because breast cancer chemotherapy, you actually tend to put on weight. Most people think when you have chemotherapy, you lose weight. It does very much depend on the type of chemo that someone's going through.
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky enough to get the chemotherapy that makes you put on weight.
Awesome.
So plus the menopause on top of that. Anyway, so that she was like, you will put on weight. I need you to be really clear on that.
Mm-hmm.
So probably, not a good idea. And look, from a language perspective, I would never condone someone talking to someone like this, but she was like, so I suggest now that you start restricting your, you start thinking about what you're eating and drinking and all of that sort of thing. I remember in my head going, oh, it's a bit fucking late for that, because I had fallen straight into sympathy. I was drinking more than I ever had, which, I now know is a ridiculous thing to do when you've got a history of cancer. And I was eating everything in sight. I was doing so much emotional eating. It was ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So, there was that. And then there was obviously, I was on steroids. So before you have your chemo, each chemo round, you go on to a course of steroids. And I've got photos of myself. And I literally my face is like a full moon. It was just huge. And, I've kept the photos as much as they make me physically sick to look at. I've kept them because they're a mark in time. They're a timestamp of what was happening to me and where I was at. But I felt this, and I had to grieve the body that I had lost. I had to grieve the life that I'd lost in many respects, because I got back to being, I am fit and I am strong, and I have gone back to training the way that I used to train.
Yes.
But it took me a long time to be able to do that. And I truly believe that the only way I was able to do that was by mourning and grieving what I had lost, so that I could then move on to what was next for me.
Mm-hmm. Instead of pushing through. This is I'm so glad you brought this up, because I see this a lot in clients. They have this challenge, and we have been taught in our society just push on through. And it's like, if you don't deal with the emotional fallout from this big change that's happening, even if you choose the change, I know that, you wouldn't, the cancer wasn't something you chose. Absolutely not. Even if it was something you chose, you're still saying that the life that you thought you were going to have is not going to happen anymore. So there is grief. And if you're not dealing with the emotional end of things, you're going to go down the self-soothing, alcohol, drugs, shopping, sex, like whatever your addiction of choice is. Like food is absolutely my addiction of choice. It's the self-soothing end of things that will happen. And it's like, thank God you had the sense to be able to honor the fact that there needed to be a pause and an actual feeling. And was that partly also getting the counselling and actually working with someone professionally through that?
And there was actually, so I had 1 or 2 counselling sessions kind of, straight after I came out of all my treatment, which was kind of self-driven.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the doctors don't send you off for that. And, it was very superficial at that point, because I suppose I wasn't really aware of all the trauma that I was actually going to have to deal with. It took some time for that to come out. And there was actually a trigger for that to come out. And what happened was one of my youngest son, and the boy, so I say the boys, my youngest son and his friend were probably, I'm going to say they were about 16. And at the same time as I got my diagnosis, his dad got a cancer diagnosis as well.
Oh, goodness.
But unfortunately, his cancer was systemic. It had spread throughout his body by the time they found it. And, I knew that my outcome was going to be okay. Next, we knew was never going to be okay. And, but we were chemo buddies. We went through chemo at the same time. You know, we'd both be standing on the sidelines at a soccer game with the boys, you know, talking about our chemo treatments and how we were coping with this and how we're coping with that. And you know, we would text each other the day before treatments and things like that. And Nick died probably about 8 or 9 months after I finished my treatment. And that triggered what they call survivor grief in me. So, and I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't prepared for it. I tried to talk to other people about it, like just my friends.
Yes.
But, you know, in their, I'm going to say ignorance, which does not sound right, but in their uneducated way, all kind of went, oh, don't be ridiculous. Guilt is, you know, it's such a wasted emotion. You know, don't go there. Don't do that to yourself.
Yes, let's just diminish.
It was all said with love, and it was all, you know, meant from the heart, but it wasn't what I needed. And that was actually what put me into therapy and, you know, properly into therapy to actually deal with everything. And that was the turning point for me to actually recognize that actually I have so much trauma, that physical trauma, emotional trauma, that I need to now deal with. And it was only because I did that I'm now in this position where I, you know, did so much work. You know, I've also done a lot of energetic healing. I have a beautiful kinesiologist, and I spent a lot of weeks and weeks with her clearing all of the, you know, emotional trauma that I was physically carrying. You know, and it's taken a lot of work to get to where I am today.
Oh, just honoring that, because what a journey. I think, the whole trauma piece, and I'm just rereading the Body Keeps the Score that I don't even know who wrote it, but I'll put it in the show notes, which is literally all the good science and research behind how, we can go through things and we can talk a lot about them and whatever, but the physicality of it, the trauma, the energy of the trauma and the feelings and everything that you're going through gets stuck in your body. So if you're not doing the work and this is why, you know, coming back to what you do, or part of what you do with the PT, is like, you need to keep moving if you want to be able to grow, expand, evolve, heal. Your body is like such an essential part of it. It's not funny. Like you cannot do just the mindset work. And this is coming from someone who was a mindset coach, right? Like that used to be my jam. Like, you know, sort your fear out, you know, blah, 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 do this magic in your head. Absolutely part of it. But if you're not also allowing the emotion to rise in your body and move. You've got a shitload of work to do. So honoring and kinesiology. I've just booked in Reiki, kinesiology, energy healing for my last day at my job on Thursday night. I'm like, clear that shit out.
Absolutely. Yep.
Oh dear. Okay, let's move to, so many different things, all this identity stuff, knowing that you're resilient, going through the treatment, going on your holiday, and then hitting that trauma trigger, doing the work. What's changed now? Because obviously you also said, you know, you'd gone into menopause, but you weren't aware, like you are now, this amazing advocate for women, understanding what to expect during the years of perimenopause and menopause. Let's talk a little bit about, I mean, it's very obvious to me why you're passionate about it, but where did that happen along the journey that we're talking about?
So one of the things that I was kind of left with that, you know, you can't really kind of fix was an incredible disappointment in the post-treatment care that I received from my my specialists. And, you know, and that for me was very much around the fact that I'd gone into menopause. Now, I was 47. And my mum didn't go through a natural menopause. She actually horrendously had a full hysterectomy when she was 21, just after she had me, back in the 70s, no
Drastic.
HRT, no support whatsoever. So she had a horrendous journey, which I now recognize for what it was. And so I didn't have that template for what happened to a woman in her 40s and 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was totally oblivious to the fact that menopause was even on my radar. At 47, I had not noticed any changes to my body at all. And so I was told at my first oncology meeting that I would go into medical menopause. And I would imagine I probably thought, oh, cool, there's something I don't have to worry about.
Because you don't know.
No, because I didn't know. It was just like, oh, cool. I literally thought menopause was something you just tick the box and there you go.
Yeah,
done.
cool.
And so anyway, so I came out of that with incredible disappointment at the lack of support that I got around what to expect as a result of menopause. The significant impacts that it has on your physical and mental health. And I did a lot of, I invested a lot in healing myself on all levels. I invested in, we've talked about the kinesiology and the therapist. I invested a lot in nutritionists, my own personal trainer. There is a list as long as my arm of all the people. So I pretty much what I did, and this is where we talk about the resilience thing, that I, got some clarity where I, as a coach, as a PT, you're always coaching people. I've got those tools in my toolbox. I pretty much just flipped the narrative and I dipped into all of those tools and used them on myself. And, amazing that I was lucky enough to have all of those tools and knew that that was what I needed to do if I was going to move forward. And so I invested in all the things that I would tell someone else to invest in and healed myself, to a place where I am today. Well enough to go back to personal training. And sorry, I know I'm getting a long time to answer your question, but I am coming to it.
Yeah.
The answer. And so I ended up opening a gym in my garage at home. I didn't go back into working in a Globo. I didn't, go back to CrossFit and all those crazy things that I had done in the past. I just opened a small gym in my garage. And I decided then and there I was only going to work with women. Best decision from a business perspective I have ever made.
Amen.
My business is now the most successful it has been in my whole PTing career because I niched, which I was told not to.
But also, not just niching. Sorry, Sonya, I just spoke over you, which I'm really bad at. But not just niching. This is something that you were called to do years ago. That's your heart is saying, this is your blueprint, go do that. And then you have some idiot man
because
saying,
I am now a postmenopausal woman, I go, fuck you, I'm going to do what I want.
Exactly, because we have zero fucks left to give once we hit perimenopause.
I do not give any fucks to anyone. So I opened my garage gym, decided I was only working with women. And as a result, started hearing the conversations. When you create a safe space for women, conversations just flow. And I started to realize that all of these women who were going through a natural menopause were just as unprepared, just as uneducated, and just as unsupported as I had been. And it dawned on me that I had this incredible, and hello, hero's journey. I had this incredible lived experience that I could leverage to educate, support, and help these women.
Okay. So yes, I am agreeing with everything you just said in terms of education and support, because I am 47 and a half. In around about, January this year, I started going, I'm feeling a little bit hot under the collar, feeling a bit like I'm going to rip someone's face off. Swinging from like sad to angry all the time. And we've known each other for years. And I was like, I need some support. And then I Google menopause mentor advocate or something like that. And I find you.
Here I am.
So my experience, certainly, like I haven't gone through, surgical or medical menopause, but just naturally coming into that, the starting point, I guess, of perimenopause.
Which we call perimenopause.
Yeah.
And perimenopause is the 5 to 10 years before your actual menopause.
Yes.
So predominantly women will experience it in their 40s.
Yes. And oh my God, does this really go on for 10 years? That's all I can think when you say that. Anyway, I have been very blessed to be able to plug into everything that you've created, including your incredible podcast. So let's talk about that. And also, actually, backtrack one little minute. In your gym was part of the menopause lack of understanding also around that body image thing, because for me, that was the beginning of, I put on I mean, we talked about this on your podcast earlier, but I had done this super restrictive eating plan. I'd gotten down to under the weight I was when I got married when I was 25. How stupid is that? Like in your 40s. And I had just put on a whole heap of weight because I decided I was not going to diet for the whole of 2022 because I just screwed myself up so badly with the diet culture and industry and whatnot. So I started to put on a significant amount of weight. And, I'm wondering whether part of that conversation in the gym with the people that you were training was, why can I not? Because it's that shift of that body composition, but also the self-identity thing that you were talking about.
Yeah, the most common things that I hear are my body is changing shape. My body is changing shape. I don't know why, because I haven't changed the way I'm training. I haven't changed the way I eat. It's just got a fucking mind of its own. What the fuck is going on? Then the next most common phrase is, I feel like I've lost the woman I used to be.
Yep.
And I want her back. What the fuck do I have to do to get her back? So there's a significant disconnect that happens for a lot of women. And absolutely. I think that is probably linked to the physical changes that are happening that are out of their control. And this is where I draw, similarities from my cancer journey to menopause, because it happens to you. It is, if you are born with a female reproductive system, you are going to go through menopause, whether that is natural, surgically induced, medically induced, you will experience menopause.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is something that happens to you, and you can manage the symptoms of it, and there will be some symptoms. Not everybody experiences all the symptoms. No. But, when it starts happening, you have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Yep.
And so they're the most common things that I was hearing. It was actually the third thing, and you mentioned this earlier, and it gave me an inward chuckle, because I hear this so often at the moment. I'm working with a bunch of women at the moment, and I've been asking them about, when we're finished working together, what for you will be, can deem this to have been a success.
Yes.
And one of the most common things I hear, and this was the big chatter that I was getting in my gym, was, I want to stop snapping at my husband.
Oh, yeah.
I need to be happier for my family. So there's there's that recognition that they're quicker to anger, they're cranky, they're on those emotional roller coasters that you talked about. Literally, you can go from waking up in the morning and feeling like you're on top of the world to wanting to fucking punch everyone in the face that you come across. Absolutely. Friends and family included by the end of the day. For no good reason. It just swings. So they're the three things that I hear the most from women is, the body changes, the emotional roller coaster impacting moods, and the disconnect with the woman that they used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as much as it's discombobulating and as much as we need all the education and support that you provide, I also think that there is this beautiful, because there is literally changes in our brain that stop us giving a fuck about what other people think of us.
Yeah, they're the good changes.
Me, that is the biggest freedom that I have started to experience in my life, is like, I don't actually care whether you like me or not. Like, I'm being who I am. I'm doing what lights me up. My values are my values. And if you're not on board, that's absolutely cool. No harm done. But I'm not going to shape shift to try and fit into your definition of who I should be as a mother, as a woman, as a person in business, as a partner, as a, like all of the labels that we use. And so this is why, my deep passion is that midlife metamorphosis. It's like, yes. And I say tongue in cheek, the clusterfuckery of perimenopause. What I really mean is, I feel like it puts us in a bowl, scrambles us all up, and we get to choose how we emerge. And yes, there is undoubtedly lots and lots of emotional, mental, physical changes that happen. But also something that I woke up the other day and I was like, so I made this, deal with myself that I wasn't going to diet at all for 2022, and actually beyond. But at the time, that felt scary enough, right? And I woke up the other day and I put a dress on. I was like, I just really love this dress. I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, there is actually an absence of me needing to know that I look good in this dress. And I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I've realized that it's not my job to be the skinniest in the room or the most attractive or the least wrinkly or any of the other shit that I used to worry about. I'm like, no, not my job anymore.
Yeah.
I'm wearing this dress because it feels good.
That's something that I really try and balance my message with, because we do talk so much about, for the women that really experience debilitating, is that the right word?
Debilitating. Yep.
Jesus. During their perimenopausal and into their menopausal years often, it is a clusterfuck, and they do need support and education and medication in some form to help them live a healthy, happy life.
Yes, absolutely.
So it is, often I feel like, my industry does reflect a lot on that. But we need to balance that with this message that there are incredible things that open up for you once you are into the postmenopausal. Yeah. And, I truly believe, and you've used this word already, but there is an incredible freedom that comes. Yeah. And for me, it's the gift of menopause. It's this freedom to literally show up as the woman that you want to be.
Yeah.
Not
absolutely.
the woman that society tells you should be, or that I think there's so many women in their 40s, I'm going to target the 40s, that do that thing that you just talked so openly about, of going, oh my God, I want to look like I did when I was in my 20s. And they go to a gym and they go to a personal trainer and go, when I was in my 20s, I weighed this and I wore this size clothes. I want to do that again. And, once you get into your 50s and you're postmenopausal, you don't give a fuck about that anymore. No. And look, that's probably generalizing as well. I would imagine that there are still women that do. Yes. And that's okay. But I do believe there's a freedom that comes with menopause, where if you choose to step into it, there is a place where you can fully show up as a confident and powerful woman.
Yeah, absolutely. And grounded in who you are and what you're about and what you care about and what you don't care about. And, the reality is, and unless you've had kids very late in life, that we often go through this, transition when also our active parenting.
Our nest is emptying.
Yeah, exactly. Our nest is emptying. Or if you haven't had a family, but you've had this crazy career, sometimes, often actually, when I'm talking to someone who has had a crazy career, it's post-menopausally or during that perimenopause stage where they're like, I don't actually even fucking want to climb this ladder anymore. I've gotten to this version of success that I've been chasing, but I'm hollow on the inside. And so then again, this is an invitation. It's like, who do you want to be?
Yeah.
What do you care about?
I also think, though, that conversely to that there is a percentage of women, though, that are on that ladder that actually finally go, I've actually got the balls to break that ceiling now.
Yes.
And they do. And they actually, are having the best and most successful careers of their lives in their 50s and beyond.
Amazing, hey?
Yeah.
So
and
much
there's,
gold.
I did a lot of research into how menopause is treated in different societies.
Yes.
We all know, and I'm going to say this, and it's not anything we don't already know. We live in a very patriarchal Western society.
Yep.
And, as a result, menopause is been invisible and it's been brushed under the carpet. And, we've been told to, suffer in silence and all of those things. But there are these incredible cultures that actually elevate a woman once she is into her postmenopausal years. Now, they're not, saying it's because she's postmenopausal, but it's, the 50s and the 60s
wisdom
is when they become elevated into some of the highest positions in their communities because of their wisdom, because of their lived experience, because of their confidence and their ability to create change for others. And, I would love to think that we can get into a position where we do the same.
Well, I know with people like you, like the conversations that you're having on your podcast and also in the programs that you run, the more that we have these conversations, the more that people speak out, the more that women are actually honest with each other about what they're going through. And then it's like we create this, oh shit, it's not just me. Okay, let's talk about this. We will get to the stage where it's not this, thing that's swept under the carpet. I actually, was reflecting the other day. I've got, in the role that I'm in at the moment, which is only for 3 more days. I have a team, and a lot of my team are women in their 40s and 50s. And if I were to stay in corporate, which I don't choose to, but one of the big things that I would love to have spearheaded is just the awareness of the transition and the fact that this brain fog happens, and, you know, women can feel all of a sudden not capable when they are, you know, they've always been capable. Their professional career has been very important.
And
to
one
them.
of the reasons they actually feel that they're not capable anymore is actually driven by the reaction of others around them. So yes, this awareness of menopause in the workplace, and there are some amazing women doing some incredible work around it, which is awesome.
Yes.
But it's really interesting. I did an incredible podcast interview with Professor Jayashri Kulkarni, who is a professor of psychiatry. She is one of Australia's leading researchers into menopausal depression. And, you know, she talks at length about the changes that happen in the brain and the impact it can have on mental health. And we talked about, in the interview, we talked about, you know, menopause in the workplace and how that impacts women that, you know, are in leadership positions. And, you know, if they start suffering things like brain fog and word loss, which was actually something I struggled with big time, it's not actually the act of them questioning themselves that becomes the problem. It's other people around them saying, what's wrong with you? You know, you used to be able to, you know, look at a spreadsheet and analyze the data, you know, in 10 seconds flat. Why can't you do that now? You know, or the kids at home going, geez, mom, you know, what the fuck? Why did you forget that I had 3 activities on after school and you needed to pick me up to get me from one to the other? Like, what's wrong with you? You know, it's that language and conversation that actually creates a significant dent in the woman's confidence in herself.
Absolutely. That makes me think of, I currently work in disability services, and one of the things that we are constantly working on is increasing inclusion in our societies. And there's this really clear thing that I was told years ago when I first started disability services and community solutions: you're only as disabled as the society that you live in. So, you know, if we don't have accessible houses, if we don't have whatever, that is what disables someone. And it's similar to what you're saying. The environment is the problem. It's not the thing. It's the way the environment doesn't accommodate for that.
And reacts to it.
Correct. Exactly. And judges, like, you know, as soon as we feel like we're wrong, of course, that's going to be challenging. Oh, my goodness. So many more questions, but we will have to wrap it up. So I would really love for you to share about your amazing podcast. I refer every woman in their 40s. I'm like, you need to know about this podcast. It's one of my ones that I like to binge to and from, like Brisbane or something like that, because you always have the most amazing experts on, but always with that thread of realness and sharing about your own journey, which, you know, that's to me is the magic of your podcast, because I've
been told that, and my laugh.
Your laugh. Definitely your laugh.
My laugh. It's funny. I've always talked about how, you know, whenever I've done bios and things about myself, I always say, you know, and Sonia's laugh lingers long after she's left the room. But I get the most incredible feedback from women that say they listen to my podcast and they're like, oh my God, I love your laugh.
So good.
Like, can you tell my family that? Because man, do they pay me out about my laugh.
Me too. Me too. I'm always getting shit for that. So Dear Menopause, where do we find it?
So Dear Menopause is literally on every streaming platform that you could possibly find. So all you have to do is put into the search bar Dear, like you're writing a letter, menopause. Also, you could go to dearmenopause.au and you will find the website, which lists every episode is on there. You can listen to it directly through there, or you can hop over to your preferred streaming platform from there.
So good. And we will obviously put in the show notes for this episode all of the links to your goodness in the world.
Amazing. Thank you.
Sonya Lovell, I will have to have you back because I would love to talk about the transition, like more about the menopause. But I'm very, very, very grateful that you've come and shared your personal journey, because there's so much gold in there, talking about resilience and the growth edge and creating something from change that's thrust upon us rather than deciding that it's going to define us, which you absolutely have not done. So go you, girlfriend. Lots of love. So much love. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Kylie. Thank you so much. You know, I mean, there's things I've shared in this story that I've actually never shared before. So I appreciate you giving me this opportunity and creating this space for me.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. Well, there you have it, beautiful one. Another inspirational episode. And thank you so much to our guest from today for sharing their journey and leap of faith. So many takeaways, as always. I would love to know what your favorite thing that we discussed or that hit you between the eyeballs to invite you into your own expansion or leap of faith was. Share it on Instagram or Facebook. You'll find me at Kylie Patchett. And I would love it and be so honored if you take the time to leave a review on any of your favorite podcast platforms about this show or the podcast in general. And finally, if you have someone in your life who is another midlife maven who may just need some reminding that she is a powerful, magnetic, amazing woman and that she absolutely deserves the life that she craves, please share us. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.